These are the types of things that take your profile and your presence on LinkedIn to the next level. Because now not only do I understand what you do, but now you're also letting me know that you're an expert, you're a thought leader, and that you're passionate about what you do. We're drawn to people who are passionate about things. That's just human nature, right? When somebody is passionate about something, even if it's not something that we'd ever be passionate about, I want to work with somebody who really loves what they do, because that gives me the belief that what they do for me is going to be top-notch.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to another episode of the successfulbookkeeper.com. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and I am super excited about today's guest. If you're wondering how to leverage LinkedIn for your bookkeeping business, well, you have picked the right episode to check out. Today, our guest is Perry Monaco, who leads customer success teams at LinkedIn. He's passionate about many things, including helping companies and individuals achieve professional and personal success, and he loves Elvis Presley. Perry, thank you for being on the podcast. I know you're going to give us a wealth of information, and we're going to get right into it. And really, before we do, I'd like to get a little bit of your career path so people understand who they're listening to and know where you're coming from before you arrived at LinkedIn.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the intro. I guess my parents would be slightly disappointed with my career path in the sense that I'm not at the same job that I was at when I graduated university. I'm not the president of a company as the first person in my family to graduate with a university degree, and that was the expectation back then. But I've done a number of different things. Certainly not a linear career path. I feel as though if you're an engineer or a doctor, you sort of just go from school into that, and then that's where you end up. I've been in sales for a good portion of my career, or at least associated with some portion of the sales cycle. For the majority of my career before joining LinkedIn, I was a recruiter. And so I worked for an actual recruitment agency. So don't hate me for that, but fully immersed in the recruitment industry. And then when I moved over here to LinkedIn about 6 years ago now, I started working with organizations to help them build a recruitment strategy. And ultimately, that's what my team does now, is work with organizations around the world to help them build social media strategy when it comes to driving, in this particular sense, driving talent to their industry. But so many things that we do and that we talk about is translatable to driving more business, driving more leads, driving new business, increasing existing business. There's so many different things that a lot of the strategies are translatable in that way. So ultimately, that's what my team's goal is, to make sure that a solution that an organization has invested in LinkedIn is maximized through all the different channels that they can maximize it. And so it's been a lot of fun. It's been quite the ride. When I joined LinkedIn, we were approximately 30 people in Canada and 1,500 people worldwide. And now we're over 130 in Canada, over 10,000 worldwide. And just recently and currently are undergoing this acquisition with Microsoft. So it's been quite the ride.
It's an incredible company, and I'm sure it's been an amazing place to be and watch all the change and shift in not only at your organization, but globally, the way people are interacting and working with each other through your product, which is LinkedIn. I remember when I first saw LinkedIn, and that was back in early 2000s, and I looked at it and I thought, where's this going to go? So, I didn't think it would make it. I'm not a futurist, I guess.
It's pretty amazing to see the evolution of what we've done, both on the ground, but certainly what the site has done. Starting off in Reid Hoffman's garage as basically a virtual Rolodex, has really now turned into a huge content machine, right? There is just a ton of content to consume on LinkedIn, and there's so many different ways in which you can use it to become a better professional. That certainly has changed a lot over the course of the years that LinkedIn's been around.
Absolutely. And one of the things I talk about with all the bookkeepers I work with, number one, get a bio picture up, a great picture of yourself so they know who they're talking to. And I know when you did this podcast, you said that you only do Skype interviews and conversations via Skype when you're on video. So you want to see people, you want to see who they are. So it's been a very interesting tool because I've seen it evolve as well, and I use it every day, and I think it's incredibly powerful. Now, you mentioned you're focused on helping organizations you leverage it for recruiting, which I think that is very applicable to bookkeepers, but as well, probably more so on the business development side. So let's get into that a little bit. And where do we start with a big topic like this?
It's a great question, and I think it's good to answer that question with it's okay to feel like that's a big question and to not know where to start. Totally appreciate where people will be coming from. It's, oh my goodness, I want to do something here, I just don't know where to start. And I think a lot of people get into that particular situation and then they either do too much of the wrong things or they don't do anything because they're paralyzed with not knowing where to go. Really, if you think about social media in this way, I think you're on your way to being successful. And that is to imagine social media like it's an extension of what you should be doing already in real life. For me, the analogy I like to use is to imagine social media as a big party. And now I use the term party, but it doesn't have to be a party. It could be a big meeting. It could be, a small meeting. It could be whatever it is that you want where people gather together. But if you think of the analogy of a party, think of the things that you do in preparation for, but also while you're at the party. Those things really translate into what you should be doing in a LinkedIn environment as well. What you should wear to the party is an important question to ask yourself. That really boils down to what your profile should look like. Do I have the time to go? Completely legitimate question to ask if it's worth your time to invest in a social media strategy, because it's not for everybody at this time. And then who's going to be there really answers the question of who should I be talking to? Who should I be inviting to connect with? Totally legitimate questions to ask yourself. The one that is the most important and where you should start is that profile. That very first instance, that very first impression that you give someone when someone looks at your profile, whether it's your business profile or your individual profile, is so important. We don't do business with companies, we do business with individuals. We work with individuals, we don't work with companies. When you think of a large organization, or even a small one for that matter, you don't necessarily think of their product or service first. You think of the people who work there, if you know people who work there. So if you're a small business owner, if you're looking to expand your business, or you're looking to hire, or whatever the case may be, it all boils down to what is that first impression that I give off. And so you can have a very nice, slick corporate website, which is really easy to do these days. But guaranteed, once I know who you are as an individual, the first thing I'm going to go visit your profile. And I want to make sure that those messages that your company is giving work with the messages that you as an individual are giving. I want to make sure that you're a reputable individual, that you have credentials, that there are recommendations there, that you're telling me the story of your career, how you got to where you are. All of the little things that you did throughout your career add up to becoming an expert in the industry. And remember, for the most part, people in this industry, when they're working with the quote unquote general public, they're automatically experts right from the get-go, right? Because they have credentials and they have experience and they have background and answers to questions that I have that I will never have because I can't and won't do what it is that you're doing. So if you're immediately an expert, this is an opportunity for you to tell me why and how much of an expert you are. So if you're to start, you really want to make sure that your profile has everything on it that you're comfortable having out there in the public space. Certainly a photo, definitely a headline that talks about the value proposition. Your summary should be nice and complete. You should tell me about your past work experience. Give me an idea of your progression in your career, right? That's also important. Sometimes people want to leave off some of the more junior positions that they have, but what it does show is that you have ambition, that you can grow, that you have the opportunity to move yourself up through the industry and through other organizations. So talk about things in the first person, be really clear about what it is that you're trying to achieve. And lastly, remember that you're not there to speak to all 450 million members or whatever platform you happen to be on. You're not there to speak to everybody. This is not a presidential campaign. You're there to speak to your audience, right? So figure out who your target audience is. Is it other small businesses? Is it other medium businesses? Is it large corporations? Is it types of people within those industries? Understand what they're looking to see and hear, and then speak to them. Language that they're going to understand, and think about what it is that they're going to want to hear. That's the best place to start when it comes to figuring out what your strategy is online.
I think that sums it up in a great, and I can't wait. I can see the website post when we put this episode up, step 1, step 2, step 3. Love the analogy of the party. I think we can apply that. That should be the analogy used for all business, right? You're going to a party. What are you going to be predominantly doing? You're thinking about the people that you're meeting, not just about yourself. You're portraying, you're asking questions, you're figuring out who's at the party. It's not all about you, it's about your customer. And so I have a customer, though, that, went to their LinkedIn profiles recently at a bookkeeping conference out in Western Canada. And she came up and she asked me questions about her business. And I said, well, let's have a look at your LinkedIn profile. And right away, the very first thing I look at is a picture, and it's her logo. Now, the rest of it was pretty good. However, she buried what she had at the top was, where you have the description. She had a lot of information about the technical aspect of bookkeeping. And at the very bottom, it was like this piece about her customer and why her customer would even be interested. Now, I think, I would like to hear your take on that, because I would think that she'd want to have that right up at the top around, hey, I'm a bookkeeper, but this is why you should be looking at my profile and why I'm an expert, as you were saying. And then can you address this issue with the pictures, people putting logos versus their personal picture?
Yeah, the picture one is an easy one in the sense that we certainly recommend that it is a likeness of yourself. It's a true likeness of yourself. Theoretically, the logo isn't allowed, but with 450 million profiles, certainly some profiles get away with it longer than others. But again, going back to this party analogy, if she were to show up, or this person were to show up with a logo literally pasted on their face, it seems a little odd. It seems a little strange, right? And so not only do you want a true likeness of yourself, but you also want it to be a recent likeness of yourself. There's nothing worse than going to meet someone that you've had a conversation with, you've looked them up online, and when you meet them, you realize that, oh, that was a photo from your prom 35 years ago. Not a good first impression, right? You may have done all the right things digitally and over the phone, but then when you actually meet the person, there's a little bit of a, whoa, that's not who I thought I was going to meet. So you want the photo to be a professional photo, to provide an opportunity for you to be approachable, right? Because we do, especially in Canada, but certainly around the world, we like to work with people, and we want to see that nice, engaging face. So it doesn't even have to be a serious professional photo. It can be one with a little bit of a smile. However it is that you want to present yourself, but think about the same way that you would walk into a party. If you walked in with a scowl, or you walked in with a logo on your face, or maybe even if you walked in with a black and white photo, that might not give off the right engaging personality that you want to give off. So I think the photo is important for that person to change it to their true likeness. In addressing their summary statement, you're very correct in the sense that summary and the entire profile for that matter, but certainly the summary being one of the first things that people are going to see and read, is it should really be speaking directly to customer first, right? Sometimes I don't even know what it is that I need from you. I just know I need someone who can help me crunch numbers, or, do my taxes, or run my business finances, or whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily need to know all of the minutia about it yet. I'm going to hire somebody based on recommendations, who I know that they know, their past experience, all that kind of stuff. So I want to know what you're going to do for me as a customer. That for me is really what should be first and foremost. Speak to me directly as a customer. Speak to me in terms of the language that I understand as somebody who isn't an expert in this field. And then you can certainly leave some of the other details there, but you're right. The order in which those appear would probably be below the detail that you're going to give me as a prospective customer. What kind of service are you going to offer me that is going to make you different from your competitors outside of some of the technical things that I probably wouldn't even know because I'm not in this industry?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so a couple of things. What's interesting is I didn't even know it wasn't to the user terms, I guess, of LinkedIn to not have your likeness image up there. So that's super powerful. I'm going to spread the gospel for you on that because, first of all, I already agree with you, and I love this whole party theme that we're working with. The other bit here that's kind of interesting is, bookkeepers and accountants for that matter, they're very technical people, they're detail-oriented, and that's what makes them great at what they do. Their customers are complete opposite. Right. So it just has me thinking about this description page, and we live in a world of sound bites now and tweets and small bits of information. So what would be your recommendation on that description? Because she had a lot of information there that even I would just, I'm not even going to read it. So would it be advantageous to put, here, speak to the customer, this is what your pain is likely, this is how I solve it? Could they move up some testimonials into that, or is that, not within the user terms in LinkedIn? What are your recommendations for that description?
Well, it's really important to remember how people are consuming this information for the most part. And more than 60% of the traffic to LinkedIn right now is via the mobile device.
Wow.
Right?
60%.
And then when you factor in, depending on who your audience is, if you're going after, the quote unquote younger generation, that number is going to be even higher, right? If you're in Asia listening to this podcast, it's even higher, right? So imagine what it's like to look at your profile on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad versus your laptop. That gives you so I encourage you to visit your own profile. It's not an ego thing. It might be for me, but it doesn't have to be for you. But it's to critique the profile as though you were the consumer reading your profile on their phone. Because for the most part, that's how they're going to be consuming a lot of this information. So if you've got lots of detail, that actually can work against you when someone's reading on their phone. Because and everyone else knows how many times we will scroll, and we won't scroll a lot. Right?
That's right.
And so for some older folks like myself, I can say that now because I just turned 40. I have an iPhone 5 and it's a pretty small screen. But you look at some of the other screens out there, the 6 Plus, the 7 Plus, all those kind of, hopefully not the Note 7 for those of you listening now. But there's some pretty big amount of real estate for some mobile devices. So try and grab a couple of different ones with friends or family and see what your profile looks like, and imagine you're consuming the profile on the mobile device. And that will help, I think, with a lot of the questions around how much detail. You'll know, I think. The other thing to remember is that you don't have to do this by yourself. I personally recommend, even if you were super creative and super outgoing and super, everything that the stereotype of an accountant isn't, to get someone else to take a look at it. Get someone you trust. Get someone in your family, friends, whomever, to take a look at it and say, hey, what do you see here? Is this something that works or doesn't work? Having that second set of eyes can be really helpful. So it doesn't have to be a pro or anything like that, but having somebody with maybe an understanding of their style, but at the same time their own creative flair, can be really helpful when you're going about creating what your digital brand looks like.
Are any resources that around this topic that LinkedIn provides to how to write a great, compelling description, or anything you can think of along those lines? Because I really like the idea of going to people and getting their advice, but if they can start with something that's kind of the best of, we could also probably just Google it. But
sure, yeah, that's always a good first step. But I'll give you 3 places. Learn.linkedin.com is obviously the place where you can go and get all of the the great knowledge that you need to be able to help you build the profile, but also answers a lot of the questions of how do I get my password back if I lost it? My email address doesn't work anymore, so how can I access my profile? All that kind of good stuff is there. The second place would be to go to slideshare.net. And that you can find the LinkedIn channels there, and they have some amazing presentations and videos up there that you can go ahead and take a look at. And then finally, a cheap plug here, but you can visit my profile. I've got information up on my profile about how to build a good profile, ways in which you can leverage some of the things that we talked about, so that you can get the most out of the experience. But the first two are certainly the better of the two. I've got a couple of uploads on my profile as well that you can pull down.
Oh, that's great. And we'll definitely have all of those links at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com, and just go to this episode. So that's really cool. I like that. And so we've got our profile set up. We've filled everything in. We've got a great description. There's a lot to do around this. Like, I can imagine listeners listening right now thinking, oh, I got to go learn how to use LinkedIn. And I'm just going to stop everybody for one moment here and just say this. As for bookkeepers, if you've got a business that's doing under $100,000, don't pay any attention to anything else, in my opinion. And Perry, you can stop me and correct me if you want to challenge me on this, but don't do anything but focus on LinkedIn when it comes to social media. And the reason why I say that is that there are a lot of different tools out there, but there's nothing that compares to LinkedIn in terms of business to business information sharing, connecting, and networking than LinkedIn. So if you're not a super rock star at LinkedIn, that's all you should be focused on right now. Make that space hum, figure out how to use it. And we're going to get into a bit more of that. Hopefully Perry's going to guide us through here a little bit more on how to use some of the other features of LinkedIn and the information sharing and those sorts of things. But I really just want to stress to everybody listening right now, LinkedIn is a gold mine if you use it correctly and you leverage it and you really use it as a tool that it is to be successful. So I know it's a lot of work, but this is the area you got to be focused on. Forget about Twitter, forget about Facebook right now. Those are later, perhaps. Right now it's LinkedIn.
Yeah, certainly the price is right in the sense that there's no expectation for you to invest in any way. All of this is free, right?
It's
the
completely
opportunity
free.
for you to build your brand on a professional network. Especially here in Canada, I'm not going to Facebook to look for my next accountant. I'm really not. And in fact, I'll tell you where I'm going, probably more so than LinkedIn even. I'm going to my friends. I'm going to my family. And when I do get those names, however, I'm going to then cross-reference those in LinkedIn.
You better believe it.
And so that's where it becomes really, really important. And so it goes back to that party analogy. You should already be doing a lot of this real-life networking. You should be making sure that your friends and family know that you're looking for business and that you're growing your business. And this is what your business specializes in. Make sure that there's an opportunity for them to be able to see that online as well.
That's right.
Because one of the things that you can do really easily on LinkedIn is spread out that network in a much greater way than you would be able to in quote unquote real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Perry. If we forget to mention that this is the piece that people are using to validate and give them the sense of confidence in actually connecting with you and perhaps even making that decision to move forward with you. So it's essential today, absolutely essential. I don't think anybody gets hired in this world, first and foremost, without someone looking at a LinkedIn profile. And quite frankly, I don't meet typically anybody if I've never met them before, don't know anything about. That's the first thing I'm looking for is LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And it's really, there's a reason for this. It's been validated. There's by the world, right? By the users. And there's some very strict user profile guidelines on LinkedIn that LinkedIn has built. So LinkedIn's made this a very professional space to deal in. So they've already done all that work. It's free. And so now people are using it as this really super, super powerful tool to be able to validate and give credibility to who you're interacting with, whether you're hiring them to work for you or hiring to be a contractor for you or vice versa.
You're absolutely right. I agree with everything you just said.
So that's great. So this is, we're just trying to get the right tools into the hands, because what I see happening is people are tweeting away and they're going onto Facebook and all these things. And that might be fun and you might enjoy it, but I just don't know that it's producing a lot of business. And I think it's not the right use of your time. Everybody in this industry is constantly complaining about time. So you got to think about, where's that one area I'm going to focus on? I can tell you this is an area that will give you results. Now, let's move up the value chain a little bit here and talk a little bit about, a lot of people are posting their thoughts, content, and content marketing. Now, this is even an advanced play that I don't know that we want to talk too much about, but I want people to understand what's happening in the world of LinkedIn around people sharing their information.
There is a huge play and huge opportunity for individuals to establish themselves as a thought leader, industry leader, whatever other type of term you want to use there when it comes to this stuff, simply by commenting, liking, sharing, and putting out content on their own. And it doesn't even have to be content they create. It could be the most recent industry trends in an article that was in the Globe and Mail, something about interest rates in the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star, or whatever newspaper or publication is that you want. Sharing an article out or sharing some piece of content, maybe it was a presentation that you find on SlideShare or find on the internet somewhere that you really like and you want to share it out with your network. And remember, you're sharing this out with a party. You're at the party. You're having a conversation. You're like, hey, you know what? I read this really cool article the other day. Have you heard about this? These are the types of things that take your profile and your presence on LinkedIn to the next level. Because now not only do I understand what you do, but now you're also letting me know that you're an expert, you're a thought leader, and that you're passionate about what you do. We're drawn to people who are passionate about things. That's just human nature. Right? When somebody is passionate about something, even if it's not something that we'd ever be passionate about, I want to work with somebody who really loves what they do, because that gives me the belief that what they do for me is going to be top notch and is going to be better than the other person who's just trying to get through the day. And certainly we all have times where we're just trying to get through the day, don't get me wrong. But those are the types of content plays that can be really helpful for you and your business to get to the next level. And like I said, it's not something that you have to create, but you can if you want, because you have the opportunity to publish posts on LinkedIn now. You can do longer form posts. So you can tell me about some of the important things that I need to know about as a layperson that I might not already understand. So there's huge opportunity, huge play here for individuals to take that content piece and really add that fourth dimension to their profile, really make sure that people understand that they're passionate about what they do.
It's fantastic. And I actually have some questions here about that because, I'm sitting here, I wake up in the morning and I look at I'm an iPhone user, and I look at the iPhone and I see Pulse come up, and I see a couple of different people, they've posted information. So I'm actually going to go and look. So here's one right here. It's from Pulse. Now this is Pulse is a LinkedIn, and you can help explain this a little bit, but Jennifer Britton, she's a person I'm connected with, and she's a master certified coach. I've actually bought stuff from her and done some of her programs. And here's the title. It says, Working with Different Styles in the Team. And so I've got this in the morning. I see her name and I see this title about that. Now, I don't read them all, but she's in my feed here in the morning. She's hanging out with me in the morning. Like, this is crazy. So
that's right.
Why is it that she's showing up on my feed versus I'm connected to a whole bunch of people? Why is she showing up on my feed? And what do our listeners need to know about Pulse and both from a user perspective and as well how it really works?
Well, that algorithm in the background is working, taking in a whole bunch of different pieces of information to provide you the most relevant content in your feed. So it's looking at some of the content that you personally have engaged with in the past. It's looking at content that is being widely engaged with across the network. It's also taking a look at the types of industries and content that you like in the past as well, not just from one particular individual. And it's also, taking into account some things that are just popular as well, outside of any industry. There was something that came up in my profile the other day that was just, had received a lot of likes and clearly from people that I had been connected to, and so it showed up in my newsfeed. But we're constantly trying to make sure that newsfeed is as relevant as possible for you, to your individual. So everyone's newsfeed should be different. And the better that, or the more activity you have on LinkedIn, the more relevant that information then becomes in the newsfeed. So the more, when you do like something or you do comment on something or you do share something, that's feeding the algorithm to make it better for you in the longer run. So if you're not doing anything, if you're showing up to the party and not talking to anyone or not saying anything, or patting anyone on the back, then you're not going to get a lot of response back, and that's going to be quality. But the more engagement you have with individuals at the party, the more likely you're going to get something positive out of it. Not everything is going to be relevant, just like it is in real life, but there are going to be more opportunities for relevant content delivered to you the more active you are. You don't have to be active every single day even. It doesn't have to be overdone, but a few times a week, when you go on there, maybe like that article or whatever the case may be, that's going to help feed the algorithm in a positive way.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing what you're talking about, and I'm starting to really get it because it is new that I've started to interact with that. And I think the listeners will get a sense of the power of this. Now, we've come to the party, we're looking great. We've put information, we're telling people what it is we do clearly. We're asking people questions. How do we get this is a way to get kind of interacting in the party, is go and like and connect with your customers and like things that they're posting. How can we get more of a crowd around us, if you will, at the party? Or is there any suggestions that you'd give us for there?
One of the biggest reasons why charities fail is because they don't ask anyone for money. They find it really awkward. So a lot of times, some of the best strategies is to ask people to like your stuff. One of the biggest ways people get retweets on Twitter is they ask people to retweet at the end of their tweet. So think about that. If there are some things that you are really passionate about or you want to share and you want to get some activity, ask people to comment on it. Please, or give them a call to action at the end of your article if you're writing an article, or at the end of your status update. If you like this, please retweet. I have a question for you based on what's in the article, answer it below. Those things help drive some activity back to your profile. But remember that the amount of profile, the level of profile engagement that you're going to get if you were to compare something to other social networks may not necessarily be as high at the beginning, because we are dealing with people's professional identities here versus their personal identities on Facebook, or depending on what type of Twitter account they have. So you may not get as high of a engagement rate as you would in some other platforms, but the quality is much higher in the sense that when people do engage, they're engaging with a professional profile. But we also know the data tells us that they are consuming it. It's not just they may not be acknowledging it, but it's out there. People are reading this stuff. They are engaging with it. So if you engage with it just a little bit, and ask people to engage with it back, you're going to get a pretty high level of engagement.
Yeah.
But it's also not like one thing. It's not like one tweet is going to change the world, unless you're Kim Kardashian, perhaps, or Donald Trump for that matter. But it's a series of tweets. It's a series of updates on LinkedIn. It's a series of engagements over an extended period of time that really start to help you build that momentum.
That's right. And to use your analogy of the party, it's like you've moved to a new town. You come to one party. You think you're going to be the mayor of town. It's not going to happen. You got to hit that party on a weekly basis again and again, build relationships with people, but be there and be hanging out. And that really comes back to that. Where are you going to spend your time? Spend it on LinkedIn. Go out and be a role model of what you want to have happen for yourself.
Correct.
So share other people's information, share your customers' information, connect with your customers, be the kind of person that you want them to be to you. And that's exactly what will happen.
Yep.
Perry, I know we've gone a little bit over time here with your schedule, and I want to be cognizant of that. Is there anything you'd like to share about what's going on at LinkedIn, new things coming? We're going to have all of this, all these great links up on our site. So if there's anything that you'd like to share, let us know and we can have that up as well.
Well, it would certainly, there's always change. There's always things that are new and coming. So certainly pay attention to the site. We publish all of the new fun things that are happening there. Feel free to connect with me, Perry Monaco, on LinkedIn, or follow me on Twitter at ElvisRun. I'm always talking about some of the new things that are coming out and some of the exciting reports or economic graph things that we have going on, all that kind of great stuff. You can use me as a conduit for that, but certainly, visit the learn.linkedin.com site, like I mentioned before, as a really good Kickstarter for you to be able to help you build that profile, and then visit mine for any additional uploads that you want.
Excellent. Perry, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm sitting here thinking I want you back. I want to spend more time with you. I think it's incredibly valuable. So thank you so much for your generosity and being with us today.
My pleasure, Michael. Anytime.
You bet. Thank you, everyone. This has been another episode of The Successful Bookkeeper. You can find all of the resources that we spoke about today at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. And please give us some reviews. Let us know what you think. You can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/reviews. It shows you how to leave a review on iTunes and let us know what we can do to be better and what you also like about what we're doing. Thank you so much. And next time, until then, we'll say goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.